Hey everybody, Stephanie Shields, and I am back today with a very special guest for today's interview. This is Ashley, and Ashley is known in the PCOS world as PCOS Gurl, like with a U. And I have had the absolute honor and fortunate ability to watch her advocacy through my own PCOS journey for a couple of years now. And just getting to really know her a little bit more through social media. But I wanted to bring her on here and talk about the OG like PCOS advocate that is Ashley. So Ashley, welcome to the Zapmaster page.
Thank you. I am so excited to be here. And yes, I am old. I think we've actually talked about, I have a nickname, which is the PCOsaurus, because I've been around for so long. Yeah, my journey started, I guess it would have been back in 1999. And just to tell you how old I was and how little information was out there, I actually got started in this by being on Yahoo groups. I don't know if many of you know what that is or have heard of that, but there was at one point in time that the Yahoo groups was kind of like the beginning phase of Facebook groups, of Instagram. That's where everybody went and met and talked. And I remember when I was diagnosed, first of all, it took probably about 6 doctors over about a 3-year period. And I remember how lost I felt because I, at that time, never heard of PCOS. And I'd walk in and say, I haven't changed my diet or my lifestyle, and all of a sudden I'm blowing up. I'm not pregnant. I have all these weird skin conditions. I have hair growing in places that it never grew before. I have acne, and a lot of them would tell me, "Oh, it's just stress." And probably, are you going through trying to get pregnant? Yes, I'm trying to conceive. Well, you're probably stressing yourself out. You're probably waking up and going into the refrigerator at night and not even noticing. And I'm like, no, that's not quite my story. And repeatedly, it was like the blame was always put on me. People were dismissing me and making it seem like there's no way that I couldn't be sabotaging myself, which was the furthest thing from the truth. After a couple of tries, I finally found a doctor who literally had just finished his residency. And I walked in and I said, you know what, I'm going to tell you the same story I've told everybody else. Why not? Might as well just make sure that I'm absolutely nuts. So I sat down and I told him my story, and his eyes got real wide. I'm like, oh, damn, there's something really wrong here. He went flying out of the room down the hallway. And I'm like, okay, do they need a team to put me in a hazmat suit or what's going on here? Yeah. He came back with a textbook. And he opened up the textbook that he had from medical school, and he said, here, read this. And I looked down, and there it was, the 4 letters that were going to define the next 23 years of my advocacy, PCOS. And he said to me, I don't know much about it, but we can learn together, and we have to make some decisions on, do you want to work on losing weight and getting healthy, or do you want to get pregnant? And at that point, they really didn't know that you could do both, and that, one kind of helps the other. Mm-hmm. So I went the route of trying to get pregnant and went through infertility treatments, went through shots, oral medications, all kinds of stuff. Fortunately, I did get pregnant and had my daughter. And then I decided after she was born, I had a miracle and I was going to try to get healthy. And I went and I started seeing a PCOS doctor. And within 6 months, I had lost 60 pounds and was getting really, really healthy. And within a year, I was pregnant again with my son, which was incredible and amazing. And I never knew that those things could happen. I just knew that I had infertility, and nobody really talked about the PCOS. So after all that settled down, I sat and I reflected on all this and this journey that I went through, and I got angry. I said, why did I have to go through all this years of all this, excuse my language, bullshit, and all of this blame being put on me, when I know there's something not right? And that doctor did mention those 4 little letters, PCOS. So let me find out more about it. Went online to find more information and found that there weren't any resources. At the time, there was one organization that was young, that didn't have a lot of funding, and but they were doing something. And I went onto the Yahoo groups and I said, I'm experiencing this, this, and this. And all of a sudden it was like the floodgates opened. And all of these patients started talking about, oh my God, I'm having acne and I can't control it. And I'm 30 years old. Oh my goodness, I have facial hair on my chin, on my chest, on my toes. And, I have weight around my midsection. And we're all like, what's going on here? We're all dealing with the same thing. And then it occurred to me that we had to mobilize. We had to start doing something. So we joined the organization, and which no longer exists, but thankfully we have PCOS Challenge now. But but we all started getting involved and started using our voices. And every time I took a step towards learning more or speaking up more about my story, I became more empowered. And eventually I wound up doing Discovery Health Channel's Mystery Diagnosis. I don't know if anybody remembers that. I think it's still on TV. And I did the first televised segment on PCOS. And from there, things kind of just blossomed. And I just got hooked on advocacy and just started opening my mouth and using social media. And here I am today.
It's literally, when I listen to you, and I've gotten such great opportunities to talk to other PCOS warriors myself. It's a common theme of like, you're not trying hard enough. You're not doing exactly what you need to be doing. You're probably doing something that, you're unintentionally not taking care of your weight. And I use that one and I put a pause there because the thing is I do understand that, like, my goal is health and wellness for the longevity of my life. I am a mother of 2, which was not easy to become a mother. I want to be able to enjoy and flourish with them. And I did, like, personally, I conquered, and anybody that follows my social media, if you scroll back 3 years ago, next month, I did a bodybuilding show. And a month later, I just was feeling so crappy, and it was like compounding. And I was like, God, like, I am doing everything that I could possibly do. And people were like, well, you're just not doing it right. You're not reversing out of your bodybuilding show right. You're not doing all this stuff. And it's like, well, I conquered my aesthetic goals for what people were telling me to do. And I was just talking to Letitia, that PCOS coach, who's my coach, last week. And it was one of those things, like, we sat there and we feather in the cap conquered it, but our hormones rebounded so poorly, and nobody was there to help me understand the rebound. And it took, working with traditional medicine, like Western medicine, Eastern medicine, trying to understand that balance. It took realizing that a lot of the trauma that I might have faced as a child helped exacerbate some issues in my PCOS journey, in my health and wellness. I had to go through mental health and all those kind of things, the components that we're not talking about. Looking back on things, one of the things that I love about Ashley is that she does this thing regarding women's health and heart health. And women with PCOS have a higher propensity for certain medical conditions like heart disease. And it took understanding that, like, I have family members that are close to me that do have heart disease and do have issues with that. And if we look at the same issues that I'm having are the same issues that they had in their youth, and I want to get on top of that. And it's not that, and I say this all the time, would I like to be like, a smaller bodied individual and not have it be so incredibly difficult to maintain that and whatnot? Absolutely. But I would rather find balance in what I have first and target those things first, so that heart disease isn't an issue. Cholesterol isn't an issue. Reproductive problems aren't an issue. Not that I'm having any more children, but there are other issues that happen, like my endometriosis, like some of the other problems that I've had, like my hirsutism and insulin resistance and all those things. I want to address that. And it wasn't the weight loss that did that, because the weight loss didn't fix those things. It did help me become more fertile. It did help me become more aesthetically pleasing to some people, trying to like find a way to say that without being like, thanks, buttheads. But it like it did help with certain factors, but it was not what was fixing me. And we need to like redirect how to understand that, like taking a weight neutral approach to health and wellness, and understand that we need to address the stressors, because those stressors cause other issues like cortisol issues and adrenal issues and like all of that. So I started getting louder about my PCOS because I got diagnosed at 18 by my PCP. And it was just like, yeah, you're probably going to have a hard time having kids. And I've been with my spouse since I was 18, from 18 to 25, when we had our first one, it wasn't like we worked to not get pregnant and I wasn't getting pregnant. You know what I'm saying? So it just, I lucked out getting pregnant because I was doing holistic health and it reset my hormones. And here we are, whammo, bammo, mom ×2. And I'm not cured of my PCOS. And so it's like, to be able to understand how to balance this and feel good about it. And so that more people understand, not just women, just people that have PCOS symptoms need to understand that it is not just a reproductive issue. That's why I got so mad at that doctor a couple of weeks ago that was like, meh. And our community went for the jugular. We were like, listen, like you need to not be this person, because this person is not helping people with PCOS get healthier. It's not. It is shaming us into a space where we can't access the care because you have some magic book or magic supplement that you're going to sell my community. No. But what we can do is elevate our voices, elevate our stories, so that down the road, the younger versions of ourselves, Stephanie and Ashley, don't have to have such a hard time getting access to care. I live in a medical desert when it comes to PCOS, aside from the fact that I live in an actual desert. It is hard to access care, and you got to find the right people who even understand it. Let alone are interested in trying to help it.
That's one of the biggest things, because you have a lot that I can like so totally unpack on for like the next 3 hours on what you discussed. So I'm going to try to kind of break it down a little bit. When it comes to advocacy and people understanding, we have to speak up, number one. And number two, we have to be willing to dispel the myths or the people that are trying to profit off of people who have a condition and who are desperately looking for answers. So let's talk about this. First of all, you were talking about PCOS and heart disease. And I have a lot of people that say to me, no one else in my family has PCOS. That may be true, but what people don't understand when you really break it down, PCOS is an endocrine disorder. So it affects our hormones, our metabolism, it can affect our emotions, it can affect reproduction. So it's basically like a hormonal storm. So just because other people in your family don't per se have PCOS doesn't mean that they don't have genetic markers such as cholesterol, such as heart disease, such as diabetes that can be passed along and can be a precursor to PCOS. We don't know, we do not have a known cause for PCOS, but it is believed to be genetic. And then it's believed that environmental factors set off these genetic signals that cause PCOS. So yeah, don't just think because your mom or your sister or your cousin doesn't have PCOS that you can't have PCOS. That's number one, is understanding medically what it is and genetically what it is. Number two, a lot of patients are extremely afraid to speak up about it because we're told women that have facial hair, women that have acne, women that are overweight, that they, number one, they do it to themselves. Number two, in society, they're deemed to be less desirable. And because of that, people don't want to talk about these different symptoms are having. And if we're not talking about these symptoms, then we can't get diagnosis, we can't get help, we can't get support, and we can't understand what we need to do to reduce those symptoms. With PCOS, there is no cure, but you can reverse some of the symptoms or make the symptoms so minimal that they aren't really noticed. So those are things that we have to talk about. We have to let people know that there is a space, that it's okay to talk about this with your friends, with people in the community, with your medical professionals, which again, sometimes that can be hard to find that voice when all along you're told try harder, look better, do things differently. So that's an issue. And then the cherry on top is what you talk about when you have providers that have platforms that are, supposedly world-renowned and know everything and are supposed to be out there, fighting for you. Sit there and make comments like calling you bearded women's disease and, saying that it's not because of your hormones, it's because of the foods you eat. Misinformation and people that try to capitalize on conditions do just such a disservice to the people that live with it. And that's why, again, don't get upset about it, get angry and speak up and get involved and do something, because that's the only way that it's going to change, is if we band together, we speak up, and we make change happen.
Absolutely. I mean, absolutely. It's so interesting because my industry, okay, and everybody that is on this page, I'm called the Zap Master because I'm a hair removal expert, okay? I am often the first person that mentions PCOS to the patient with severe hirsutism on my table. I'm often the first person that's like, you need to go after more than just your normal annual labs. Because the thing is like, you come in and you're like, I have acne, I have hair, okay? And you're coming into me for something aesthetic. And I'm down to zap any hair follicle that comes my way. Bring it on, okay? But the fact is you will be feeding those follicles with your hormone imbalance and the permanency that electrolysis and laser can bring into somebody's existence, okay, cannot be achieved quickly or efficiently unless we're addressing this. The number one thing that I hear from cis women on my table, okay, is that they are uncomfortable speaking to their doctor about their hair. That is the first person you should be speaking to about it. It is not because I don't want to talk about it. We can talk about your hair follicles all day long. I find joy in that. But I can't fix new growth from coming in, and I will be forever chasing inactive follicles that become active because of hirsutism. It is very difficult as a provider of care to, one, electrolysis and laser is not covered by insurance for cis women, okay? And that is because we are looked at as like, it is just an aesthetic issue. You can manage it in ways that are not expensive, so we're not going to do anything about it. What that does to a woman's mindset, when they have to wake up before their partner to shave their 5 o'clock shadow that came in while they slept, yes, and not have access to the medical care because this is a medical reason of hair growth. Yes, we're taking care of an aesthetic thing to make us feel better, but this comes with like irritation. It comes with eczema. It comes with, we're talking ingrown hairs. We're talking cystic acne. We're talking massive issues behind the skin that could be resolved if it was covered. And it's not getting covered because we don't have enough of us talking about it and advocating for it. When I came into the electrolysis world, I'm second generation zapper, okay? When I came into this world as a professional, one of the things that hit me was I was a 12-year-old girl with a mustache, and I was called the mustache lady. Same thing happened to my mother. Same thing happened to my grandmother. That's 3 generations of Italian women with a hormone imbalance that had excess hair growth. Nobody stopped that from happening, and we had to go and make changes ourselves. Now, if that's the case for everybody that has something that is causing them some type of dysphoria, okay, It should be across the board for all genders to be able to either access the care or not access the care. The difference is that we have been told to sit quietly, that nobody wants to hear this woman talk up about her healthcare concerns. You just need to suck it up and deal with it.
Absolutely.
No more. No more. We get loud, so we get results. You're going to get results on my table because I know how to zap a hair till it's dead. But I don't want you to have to keep seeing me, right? I want you to be able to take back that time, money, and energy as much as possible so that I can put another person on my table that has the terminal hair growth on their face, so we can get that down and they can take care of their accelerated vellus hair through medicinal changes, through lifestyle changes.
Right.
That's my goal. But I'm one person fighting one fight from one avenue of PCOS. We all have our we all have our thing to do that makes us most uncomfortable with our PCOS, and we need to get loud about it.
Absolutely. And, part of the problem is that a lot in the medical community and the research community until recently, and because of all of us starting to speak up and say no, viewed PCOS solely as a female reproductive issue. Because it was viewed as that, the research isn't getting done and hasn't been done. We get less than 0.1% of government funding towards research of PCOS.
Say that number again for the audience, for the people in the back.
For the people in the back, it's 0.1%, less than 0.1% of government funding to research PCOS. Now, think about that in context. Let me just put that in context. There are 6% of men and women worldwide who have diabetes, and that's pretty well researched, funded. People know about it, talk about it. Then you have PCOS that affects up to 21%, 21%, mostly female, or I'm sorry, I should say assigned female at birth, because people have different ways of identifying. So assigned female at birth, 21%, as opposed to the 6% with diabetes, both men and women worldwide. You would think that more would be done to understand this and to talk about this and to research this, especially because PCOS is a precursor to diabetes. 50%, 50 of patients who have PCOS become diabetic by age 40 or have insulin resistance by age 40. I mean, if we started talking about this more, researching it more, maybe we can lower the incidence of diabetes, of high cholesterol, of heart disease. But people, again, when they put it in that box of being a female reproductive issue and not understanding it for what it really is and the turmoil it creates for patients who have it, then we're not going to get anywhere. And that's why it's so important for everyone to share your story. People ask me, how do you advocate? I can't be an advocate like you. I am no super brain. I am no superwoman. I am no better than anyone else. What I did was open my mouth, and I have a big mouth. I'm from New Jersey. So that goes with the territory. But I opened my mouth. I started telling my story, and little by little, more people started to listen. And then I started getting louder, and then they listened a little more when I added in more information. It's just researching, connecting. Anybody can do it. And I just say, just share your story once on one of your social media platforms, and you'd be amazed at how many people say, oh my God, I have those symptoms. I know someone with those symptoms. I work with someone with those symptoms. 1 in 5, which means most people know someone in their life who has PCOS.
Absolutely. And 1 in 5 should be one of those numbers that sticks with people right now. That actually just jumped to 1 in 5. Like, we were saying 1 in 10 forever. It is so much more prevalent than we gave it credit for. And that is because people are now speaking up. It's not because diagnosis is like, because sometimes people are like, oh, because you test for it, you know for it. The difference is because it was there. It was there. The difference is now that we're talking about it, people need to understand that it needs importance. If 21% of the population assigned female at birth are experiencing PCOS symptoms that have such high economic tolls on their family, high medical tolls on their existence, we need to talk about this. It is a problem. It is a problem that needs addressing. And it's interesting because I'm sure anytime people get into advocacy, one of the big things is that you kind of fall down this rabbit hole of like research and understanding. And when I started really, after my show, I started really trying to go on like, what the heck is going on with my body? I'm like, I'm meal prepping, I'm doing all these things. What is going on? And the fact is like, there are so many little things that we are just sweeping under the rug that make such big financial implications to families that face PCOS, that if we don't do something about this, if we don't speak about this now, the next generation is going to be paying for the mistakes of this generation. We're going to be paying for it through so many avenues if we do not speak about what our needs are right now. That's huge. I mean, like,
it is.
Yeah. It just like, my heart goes, boom, boom, boom. Like, it's just like, oh, but the thing is like, my page, I'm all about talking about hair removal, obviously, but I want people to understand that like, I am that woman sitting next to you that may have been told a bazillion times all the little diets that she could do to look like the person sitting across from you. But weight is merely a symptom of PCOS. It is an endocrine disorder that we do not have access to care. And I want you guys to consider this. An endocrinologist is a specialist. That means that there is somebody gatekeeping that access to get the endocrine care I need. That means that my doctor has to find as much validity to give me the referral source to get to the endocrinologist, so that I can access that care to balance my endocrine system to get my body to act like the one sitting across from you. It is not like I can go into some nutrition store, buy some fat burner, and eat some lettuce leaves and boiled chicken to look like that. That's not sustainable. What I need is access to care. And I can get access to care and stop going to a specialist and go to a regular doctor if we talk about this. It is so hard to find that help.
It is extremely hard. And that's why we also have to partner with the medical community. I actually just did something that I'm hoping will make a difference. Is I worked with a company that does medical education. Most medical professionals have to do these continuing courses to keep up their credits as a provider. They're called either CEUs or CMEs. Mm-hmm. So I just did a whole patient perspective on PCOS and what we go through as patients and what to look for and what's not clear cut, what is clear cut, and increasing sensitivity, being able to listen to patients, because I think that's a big key. Nowadays, a lot of doctors, because of the way insurance is set up, don't have time to really sit down and assess patients or look at, like you said, at those finer details to understand what's going on. And with PCOS is, there's no single test to tell you that you have PCOS. PCOS is actually a, what am I trying to say? It's a diagnosis. I know this word, but it is a diagnosis of like basically what you don't have. You rule out everything else. Oh, yeah, and then you're left with, it has to be PCOS. So there's no way of really like looking and getting an actual diagnosis of PCOS unless you rule out lots of other things. And that takes time, understanding, communication. And we can't always put that burden on the medical professionals as well. That has to also partially come from the patient. There has to be that understanding and that communication between you and your provider to get to those answers. Now, with that said, there are a lot of providers that absolutely have to get educated and understand this condition, but that also, and that's also what advocacy is, starts with you and with the patient, that if you say, you know, we've checked other things and something's not vibing here, but I read about PCOS and the lab tests and the symptoms and what you have to do to get a diagnosis. Here's the information. I printed it off. I mean, I have a link tree that has like lab tests, diagnosis, questions and answers. You can literally go on there, print it off, take it to your professional. So yeah, you have to approach that with them, and you have to hold them accountable for your health, even if it's not PCOS. If you think something is wrong, and I guess this is also my mindset, you don't just take people saying it's all in your head, it's the way. If you know something's wrong, you're going to know your body better than anyone else knows your body. So keep seeking those answers, keep them accountable for your health. So, so yeah, I mean, it has to be a partnership, but you know, I a lot of times have to own my health as well and be willing to share that experience to get the care that I need.
100%. I mean, like, that's what informed consent is all about. At the end of the day, I kind of come in there knowing as much about the questions I'm asking as the doctor I'm about to ask to help me with it. One of the big things that we kind of face in this is that you don't know what to ask for, but that's because you kind of been like, well, if the doc's not going to do anything about it, I don't know what to do about it. So I'm just going to sweep it under the rug and call it a day. And you have to go into your doctor's office with a little bit more knowledge than just like, oh, somebody said PCOS to me. I haven't researched it yet. What do you know? No. Someone said PCOS to me. I want to know what's more about my health. I want to feel better. And so I'm going to do the research to get myself feeling better. That's what we're going to do. Are we able, in the show notes today, are we able to put that link in there so that people can go to that for you? Or do you have, that's one of the things that I think that would be a huge help, a resource, if, or at least access to you. I'm going to put your socials on there. Bam.
Now, also, another great resource is PCOS Challenge. PCOS Challenge is the National Polycystic Ovary Syndrome Association. And they literally have, I'm going to cry. They have changed my life in ways that you can't even imagine, simply by giving me a platform to share my voice. They do these amazing things, like September is PCOS Awareness Month. Yay, everybody grab your teal. So it's PCOS Awareness Month, and it is a federally designated health month for PCOS. And part of that is because, and I'll talk about this part of it in a minute, because every year we go to Washington, D.C. and we advocate with legislators, Congress, Senate, House, to get more research funding, which we talked about, to recognize PCOS, to have a caucus on PCOS because it affects so many people. So every year we go and we do this, but PCOS Awareness Month is a federally designated health month for PCOS. And throughout the month, there are a ton of events going on, not just through PCOS Challenge, but a lot of the advocates like myself, like Letitia, like Shelby, like Zap Master, Stephanie, and, you know, we all kind of celebrate. I know that sounds weird, but we celebrate being part of the 1 in 5 because that's what connects us. So that's what I love about the month. So it starts out on September 1st. We have World PCOS Day, where all of the PCOS organizations, and even where there aren't organizations established in some countries. We get people from all these different countries talking about PCOS and talking about how it's perceived in their countries, how it's treated in their countries, how they get support in their countries. And it's wonderful. And we used to do, and hopefully we'll bring it back this year, where there are overlays where you can get a flag from your country and say World PCOS Day with your country's flag, even if you're living in the US now, but originally you're from Jamaica or something like that. Let's show how worldwide PCOS is, because I think the more that people put that up and make that visual, it's like, oh my God, I'm seeing like thousands of people with these flags and these teal overlays, and what is this all about? And people realize the impact worldwide with that. So that's one thing. There is a symposium, which I don't have the date, but I will have the date. I think it's the 10th, but it's on a Saturday. We have a educational symposium virtual that we have every year, which has the leading experts from around the world sharing information about PCOS and all the different symptoms and all the different treatments, and how, again, it impacts us overall, our health. Then on September 23rd, in Philadelphia, yay, my hometown, so excited. We're going to be having the gala, which is a night that recognizes people who have made contributions to the PCOS community, who have advocated, who have stood up, organizations that have helped, providers that have helped. So we recognize all those people. There's a silent auction, there's fundraising. So it's a black tie event, and it's going to be Franklin Institute. And if anyone is around the Philadelphia area, they still have discounted tickets up until August 19th, I believe it is. Highly recommend it. I will be there with my daughter. And yeah, we'll be representing and ready to party with y'all. So come on out. And then on September 25th, we have a PCOS 5K that's going to be held in South Jersey, which I am so excited about. I hope people come out in droves. It doesn't matter if you have PCOS, but if you run, you know people who like to run, or you just want to come and hang out and walk with a group of people to raise awareness, come out. It's going to be at Cooper River Park. Again, there are a bunch of links, so I will try to get the links to all of you so you can sign up. But if you go basically to my page on Instagram, which is PCOS Gurl with the U, so PCOSGURL, I have all of the links and all the information for all of these events throughout September.
And Ashley tends to tag me in these because I told her to. They get reshared to my stuff as well, because at the end of the day, this is what advocacy is about. Whether or not you come see an electrologist for like your hirsutism, like that's beside the point. My goal is to be able to like get you the resources that I had a hard time getting. And that's like, so you guys are going to see these things popping through on my social platform. And those links being like shared and shared and shared, because this is how we get it like happening, is we get together. And 2022 was my first year doing official advocacy. In 2018, that's when I got to meet Sasha at an electrology conference that I was in charge of getting the speakers together for. And it was one of those moments, like seeing those pictures in her presentation, I was like, holy cow, like I knew I had it. And that was like, it was literally the weekend after my show. Okay. And so I was looking like a freaking muscle house. Right. And I was like sitting there going like, oh my God, all of these people that like, they speak my language and they're talking about this. And that's when I started stalking you all, is like starting in 2018. I was just like, I've got to do more, and I've got to talk to people more. And, you know, I have a captive audience for 15 minutes to a few hours on the table every time I zap somebody. And we're going to get like micro advocacy. And when this year happened and I got to do PCOS Advocacy Day, which, okay, funny story. I'm going to explain this. On PCOS Advocacy Day, you normally have a regional leader. Okay. And then you usually have a couple other advocates in your state that you're supposed to get on a call, or if you were in person with your people. And of my region, I was the only one that ended up showing up. Okay. And so I had full captive audience of all the people that I had to speak to that day. learning all about why this is so important. And they tell you, you only get like, I think it was like 12 minutes per person. It was something, it was quick. And each of the people I spoke to that day was like, oh, I don't have anybody else to talk to. I want to keep talking to you. Please keep going. One of the girls I got to talk to that day, one of the representatives, had PCOS and didn't even know that there were organizations for her. Then when you got done and got to talk to your entire team of advocates on this giant Zoom, just like kind of like what we're doing right now, it was screen after screen after screen of people all over the states. And there were people from outside the states too. I think there was somebody from France. There was somebody from like the Caribbean, I think it was. These people are here because we're not alone. And all we need to do is keep talking about this, keep talking. And it's one day of being able to share your 2-minute advocacy story. And in that 2 minutes, it like changed my life.
Yep. You get absolutely addicted from the very first time you do advocacy day. You're hooked, you're done. That's it. And a lot of people are fearful of doing advocacy day because, when you talk about being on Capitol Hill and talking with representatives, everyone's like, I don't know the politics and I don't want to get involved, but that's not what they're there for. You are, as their constituents, they want to hear what you're going through in their states and their localities, in federally. They want to know what you're thinking. So when you go in, you're simply really telling your story. You have seasoned advocates and regional leaders that will sit there and hit them with all the facts and figures and whatever. And that's cool, but they really want to hear your story. I'll tell you something real quick that was really funny. My first advocacy day, I went in and I'm like, I know all about these legislators and I'm going to suck it to them and I'm ready. And I went with my daughter, who at the time was 16 years old. So we go into my representative's office and I'm like, PCOS this and PCOS that and 50% and 30% and blah, 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 blah. And he's going, And then my daughter starts talking. I'm going to cry again. My daughter starts talking and talks about the emotional toll, talks about how she was bullied at school for looking different or having different situations, how, when she was feeling sick, no one understood what those reasons were. Nobody could tell her what was going on, and I know she wouldn't mind me sharing this, but she also had a harder time with it because she is part of the LGBT community, which a lot of times that community feels extremely marginalized within the PCOS community. That's a whole nother hour that we could do.
I know, right? Next time.
But she starts telling her story, and we walked out of the office, and 5 minutes later, I get a phone call from Sasha, who is the executive director of PCOS Challenge. And she said, what did you do? And I went, oh my God, what did I do? What's going on? She's like, you just left his office, right? I'm like, yeah, did I leave something there that I shouldn't have left? Did I leave my phone on with a picture that was, not supposed to be there or something? I didn't know what was going on. And it wound up that my daughter's story was so profound. Literally within 5 minutes, he signed on to the PCOS resolution.
Heck, yes.
And again, that wasn't because of the facts and the figures and all of my knowledge. It was because my daughter shared her heartfelt story. So if you have any questions about getting involved in Advocacy Day, don't put those fears aside, because that's what it's about. Letting them know how this condition impacts your life emotionally, physically, financially. And it's important that they understand that, because that's the only way we're going to effectuate change. That's the only way we're going to get the funding. And that's the only way we're going to get the awareness.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, absolutely. You guys, it's September, you better buckle up, because we are going to get, we are going to be as loud as we normally are and louder. Okay. If you guys want to be part of advocating for your own health, or advocating for someone that you love, that has PCOS, or you just know that you want to talk about this for your neighbor, that you see struggling in some way, like we need those voices. Because that's what enacts change. And I want to say, like, it is a couple days out of, not even days, it is a couple hours out of a couple days of your life to be able to sit there and talk with your fellow PCOS patients, advocates, supporters. Our community is freaking stellar, just stellar. There are going to be more interviews just like this one, because I want people to be able to hear these stories over and over and over from different avenues. And I just, like, March is not far away. That is, 7 months away. Okay. And that's the next 7 months of figuring out whether or not where you want to stand on the PCOS stage, because there is enough space for all of us. And we want to, like, sing it loud and get action to happen for us, because it's very important. So,
and you know what, Stephanie, I'm actually going to make this like extremely easy, because I put a post up about this the other day, but I'm going to make it extremely easy for y'all, and I'm even going to challenge you all. Okay. Throughout the month of September, every single day, I want to highlight a patient story and a provider story every single day. So send me your story, send me your photo, tell me it's okay to share it with people, and I will share your story. And guess what? Once that happens, you become an advocate. So there you go. Boom.
Boom. That is amazing. You guys heard it here. Let's September 1 rock the PCOS stage. Ashley, I want to take a very strong moment and just say thank you for taking this time. I know that it is, it's an hour out of your day, and I just appreciate all that I see you do and making these moments. We're doing this because we want to do it. We're not doing this because we're paid to do it. We're doing this because we know the importance of it. You're amazing. You guys, not only is she a cool advocate, like, if you get a chance, just follow her social media. Like, she's you're a great photographer. You are very talented, and you took your talents today and talked to us. And I want to say thank you. So thank you for this.
Oh my God. No, thank you. Because it's voices like you and advocates like you that have kind of inspired me and kept me running for these 23 years. If it wasn't for you guys, I wouldn't be able to advocate. I wouldn't be where I am today. So every step that I take in this journey, it may seem like it's for me, but it's really for everyone in this community, because I don't want anyone to ever feel dismissed, unheard, or unloved, because you definitely are all of those. And if you ever need a shoulder to lean on, I'm your girl.
Lean on, cry on, scream on. We're there. Well, peace, love, and hair removal, guys. I really, really appreciate your time today. Thank you.
Thank you.